Hello and welcome to my kitchen. I'm Judith and it's back to school time. So weather will be getting cooler. Time to start thinking about more warming, substantial dinners. So I thought I'd do a pot roast night. Now I do have an inside round which would make a great roast beef, but I want a pot roast. Usually you would use a chuck roast or an outside round, but you use what you got. And I know this would make a lovely, lovely roast beef, but that's not what I want tonight. It'll make a really nice pot roast. We probably won't have to cook it as long as you would a chuck or outside round. So let's get started. You're going to need, I have about a 3-pound roast. You need some olive oil, some red wine or beef bouillon, beef stock. If you don't want to use the wine, go ahead and use beef stock. I have an onion. Now you can use whatever onion you happen to have. I just have a white onion. Some carrots and salt and pepper. Now a lot of people also put potatoes in with their roast when they're doing pot roast. I'm going to do the potatoes separately because I really want mashed potatoes to go with that lovely gravy that it's going to make. So let's get started. So first thing we're going to do is heat our Dutch oven on a medium-low or low-medium. I want to brown the outside of the roast. So I'm going to give it a good seasoning with salt and pepper. And I do grind some coarse salt and some peppercorns for my rub. I use it on most beef, steaks, and pork chops, roasts, lamb, whatever, basically whatever red meat I'm cooking, although I guess pork chops aren't considered a red meat, but there we go. When I get my pot heated up, I'm going to just put in a couple tablespoons of olive oil and we're going to sear the outside of the roast. And as I mentioned, we have carrots and onion to go in with the pot roast. So to prepare those, we're just going to peel the carrots and cut them into about 3-inch lengths. And our carrots are not very thick today, so I think the only bit we're going to have is the bottom, or actually the top of the carrot, isn't it? Just get them close to the same size. Makes the cooking time a little more even. Then we're just going to take our onion. Now depending on how big the onion is, you might just want to use half of it. I'm just going to peel the onion and put it into quarters. Or if it's really big, 8s, 6s, whatever makes a size that looks usable in your pot roast. So, let's just start by cutting in half, see what we've got. Yeah, I think quarters will do. I mean, this is half of the onion. There. And I did leave a bit of the bottom on so that it does not fall apart. Okay, now to sear our beef, we're just going to put about a tablespoon. Depends on the size of your pot. If it's a really big pot, put 2. And it's a tablespoon of olive oil. Now, make sure you're using utensils that will get you a good grip on your roast. So I am going to use a fork, although I do suggest you not pierce your roast if you don't have to start with. And we're just going to give it 30 seconds or so per side, just to get it nice and brown. Okay, depending on the heat of your pan, this could take 30 seconds to a minute and a half per side. And if you notice, this did not get brown. I've got a few spots that didn't get brown. So we are just going to Now have to manipulate it a little bit and hold it there so those bits will brown. And it adds a lot of flavor. And once the roast is brown, take it out. And we're going to have to add a little more oil to this pot. About another tablespoon. And now we're going to add our vegetables. You could, if you had smaller onions, just cut them in half. And we're going to get the outsides of those browned nicely brown. Nicely. I was going to say nice and brown. Yeah. Just want to brown them nicely. And that shouldn't take long. And the extra meat bits in there will add more flavor. And then just toss in the carrots and let them get a little color on them as well. This should only take a few minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, now that our vegetables have browned somewhat, they're looking good, remove those as well. I think I failed miserably on not letting my onions break up, but that's okay. We'll just take them out and put them on the same plate we put our beef on. Turn the heat down just a touch. Actually, quite a bit. Because now we are going to deglaze the pot. And I don't want to set fire to anything. There we go. So now I'm going to use about a cup of red wine, possibly a little more. I'm just going to deglaze the bottom of the pan. And I've said it before, but when you're cooking, always use a good wine. Something labeled cooking wine is so full of salt. And of course it's de-alcoholized, that the salt just is not good. No one should have that much salt in their food. There, they're nice and deglazed. If you don't want to use wine, go ahead and use beef stock. Okay, we're going to turn that off. Now that we've deglazed the pan, we are going to re-add our roast. And all our vegetables. And just distribute them around evenly, sort of. And not that it's a huge issue if they're not evenly distributed. Then we are going to add beef stock. So you do want to add enough liquid to come up about halfway up your roast. Although, since this is not a chuck roast but an inside round, I'm going to add less. And since my beef stock's apparently fairly salty, I'm just added the rest as water. And we already have wine in there, so now we need to add some herbs. Rosemary is a good one. I don't happen to have any fresh rosemary. but believe it or not, sage works wonderfully with beef. And I have some thyme. I love thyme. I wish I had rosemary. I don't. So there we go. If you wanted to add garlic, that would be good as well. Now we're going to put the lid on and we're going to place it in a 275-degree Fahrenheit oven for, I'm going to check it at 2.5 hours. It may need to go the full 3. We'll find out. Yeah, that's been 2.5 hours. Let's see how we're doing. Ooh. I think, yeah, we're just going to turn it over and let it go the other half hour. But I want to taste on the broth. Pretty good. Okay, so we'll put the lid back on and put it in. And one thing I wanted to mention, the difference between the chuck and the inside round is the chuck has a lot of connective tissue and fat. The inside round does not. And although the inside round benefits from long, slow cooking, it's not going to be quite as silky as a chuck when you do a pot roast. That's why I want to make the gravy. Okay, that's a total of 3 hours. Of course, the time will depend on the size of your roast. If you want it to go longer, start it earlier. We are all time pressed this time of year, and we want dinner on the table. We don't want to have to wait. So, depending on the size of your roast, this was a 3-pound roast, 3 hours. We're just going to pull out all our vegetables. Oh, and don't assume that's the end of the cooking, because we still have to reduce our stock and make our gravy. So if you want dinner at 5 or 5:30, you need to start this around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's not a fast process, but to make use of a less expensive cut of meat, you do need to put more time and care into it. We are going to try to pick out those thyme stems. And we do want our meat to rest for a bit before we cut it. So, just trying to get rid of any extra bits in there. Okay, while we let our meat rest, we are going to reduce our stock. So I'm going to turn it on medium-high and let it start to boil. And once it's reduced, we will thicken it and have a lovely gravy. Let me just have a taste of our stock now, see if it needs any seasoning. It's actually quite lovely. So now we just make a flour and water slurry to thicken once it's reduced for a bit. Now that we've reduced our stock by about half, we're going to put in our flour slurry. That's just flour and water in equal parts. And we'll reduce the heat under our pot because we want it on a very low heat. You need to cook out the raw flour flavor. It looks gorgeous and silky already, but we do need to check to make sure the flour has been cooked out. Doesn't take long. And we're just going to turn the heat down as low as possible and let it cook for a couple of minutes. It's almost there. And then it's dinner time. Pot roast. One of my favorite meals. That is so tender and yummy. It's a dinner that everyone will enjoy. The sage gives it a little bit of a different flavor than you're used to with beef, but it is beautiful. And as you can see, it's not fall apart. It's not pulled pork type. It is sliceable, so you can make sandwiches with it later. Slice it and package it for lunches or meals when you don't have time to cook. Pot roast is one of my favorites. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the recipe, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and do serve with a nice fresh salad. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. Every subscribe, every like, every comment helps my channel. I'm trying so hard to grow my channel, and it is slowly getting there. And I appreciate everyone that's liked, helped, subscribed, shared, commented. I thank you so much, and I'll be back again soon with a new video.